There is one building in the world that didn't just represent a city. It became the city. Not a government headquarters, not a financial district tower, not even the tallest skyscraper ever built. A hotel, a sail-shaped structure rising out of the sea, wrapped in glass, steel, and symbolism. The Burj Arab wasn't just designed to host guests. It was designed to send a message to the entire world. Luxury without limits. Ambition without apology. A place so extravagant that a British journalist famously called it a 7-star hotel because the traditional 5-star scale simply couldn't contain what she experienced inside. That label stuck, not because it was official, but because it perfectly captured the mythology Dubai was building around itself. Before we go deeper into this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications because what you're about to hear goes far beyond headlines and into the reality behind one of the world's most iconic symbols. The Burj Arab opened in December 1999, standing 321 m above the Arabian Gulf on its own artificial island connected to the mainland by a single curved bridge that almost feels symbolic, a controlled gateway into another world. Its design mimics the sail of a traditional Arabian dhow, blending cultural identity with futuristic ambition. But the real genius wasn't just in the architecture. It was in the brief given to the designers. Create something that instantly connects people around the world with Dubai, and they succeeded beyond expectation. For more than 2 decades, you could show that silhouette to anyone anywhere and they would immediately say one word, Dubai. That's not architecture anymore. That's branding at a global, almost subconscious level. And that's exactly why what happened on February 28, 2026 mattered so much more than it seemed on the surface. Because when footage began circulating online showing smoke and fire on the outer facade of the Burj Arab, the world didn't just see an isolated incident. It saw a symbol under threat. It saw the image that defined Dubai for a generation suddenly associated with something completely different. Uncertainty, risk, vulnerability. And in a city built on perception, that shift is everything. Now, let's separate fact from noise. Because this story was surrounded by misinformation almost immediately, the physical damage to the Burj Arab was limited. Debris from an intercepted drone caused a fire on part of the exterior facade. Emergency services responded quickly, contained the situation, and officials confirmed there were no injuries and no structural damage. From a purely engineering perspective, the building held up exactly as it was designed to. The fire was extinguished. Operations resumed. On paper, it was a controlled incident with minimal impact. But here's the part that those facts completely failed to capture. A hotel like the Burj Arab doesn't operate purely in the physical world. Its true value isn't in its materials, though those are extreme with gold leaf interiors, marble finishes, and unmatched design. Its value lives in perception, in emotion. In the story it tells people before they even arrive. And for 25+ years, that story was incredibly clear. This is the safest, most exclusive bubble you can enter. A place where the chaos of the outside world simply doesn't apply. That story justified everything. The price tag starting at thousands per night, the ultra-premium positioning, the global reputation. And on that night in February, that story cracked. Not completely but visibly. Because once people see even a moment of disruption in a place that promised zero disruption, the illusion doesn't just weaken. It changes. Now look at what happened next. Not to the building, but to the people. Or more accurately, the absence of them. Within the first week of the conflict, tens of thousands of hotel bookings across Dubai were cancelled. Occupancy rates that were sitting near peak levels around 80 to 86% dropped dramatically, in some cases toward 20% or lower. Luxury properties that normally operate at near full capacity during peak seasons suddenly found themselves struggling to fill rooms. And timing matters here. This wasn't a random month. This was March, one of the most important periods in Dubai's entire tourism calendar. European travelers escaping winter, high-spending visitors from Asia, corporate events, conferences. This is when the city generates a huge portion of its annual tourism revenue. And right in the middle of that window, demand didn't just slow, it paused. Think about what that looks like inside a place like the Burj Arab. Suites designed for some of the wealthiest travelers in the world. Empty. Private Rolls-Royce transfers waiting with no passengers. Restaurants that usually require reservations serving far fewer guests. Staff prepared for peak demand suddenly operating in a completely different reality. The building itself unchanged, but the ecosystem around it disrupted. And this is where the story goes deeper than a single incident, much deeper than one night, one headline, or one viral video. Because what we're witnessing here isn't just a temporary disruption. It's the exposure of something structural that has always existed beneath the surface of Dubai's tourism model. For years, Dubai didn't just sell luxury in the traditional sense. Hotels, malls, fine dining, and skyscrapers. It sold something far more powerful and far more intangible. It sold insulation. The promise that you could step into this city and exist in a completely controlled environment, separated from the instability, the uncertainty, and the geopolitical tension of the wider region. That was the real product. Not just five-star service, but the feeling of being untouchable. A place where nothing unexpected happens. Where everything runs on precision, safety, and predictability. Where the outside world, no matter how chaotic, simply doesn't reach you. That psychological guarantee is what allowed Dubai to charge premium prices, attract global elites, and position itself as a safe haven for both tourism and capital. But the moment that perception is challenged even slightly, it creates a ripple effect that goes far beyond one hotel or 1 week of cancellations. Because now the question enters people's minds. Is it still as safe as I thought? And once that question is asked, the entire calculation changes. High-value travelers, investors, event organizers, these are people who think in terms of risk versus reward. They have options. They can go to Europe, to Southeast Asia, to other emerging luxury destinations. And in a world where alternatives are endless, even a dent in perceived safety can redirect millions, sometimes billions, in tourism and investment flows almost instantly. This is not about panic. It's about recalibration. The kind that happens quietly behind the scenes in booking decisions, in boardroom discussions, in family travel plans. And those decisions add up. One canceled trip becomes thousands. One delayed investment becomes a shift in capital. That's how perception translates into real economic impact. Now layer that onto the symbolism of the Burj Arab itself and the effect becomes even more amplified. Because this isn't just another luxury property competing in a crowded global market. This is arguably the most iconic hotel ever built. A structure that has functioned for decades as a visual shortcut for Dubai's entire identity. When people think of ultra-luxury in the Middle East, this is the image that appears in their minds. So when something happens there, it doesn't stay contained within the walls of a single property. It doesn't remain a local incident. It instantly becomes global. Images spread across social media platforms within minutes. Videos are shared, reposted, analyzed. News outlets pick it up. Conversations start. Narratives begin to form. And once those narratives exist, they take on a life of their own. And here's the critical part. Those narratives don't disappear. They don't reset after a few days. They become part of the long-term perception of the destination. They sit in search results. They resurface in discussions months later. They influence decisions in ways that are subtle but powerful. This is how modern perception works. Fast to form, slow to fade. Now, does this mean the Burj Arab is finished? No. And it's important to be realistic about that. The building itself remains one of the most unique luxury experiences on Earth. The operator behind it is experienced. Dubai as a city has proven multiple times that it can recover from shocks, financial crisis, global pandemics, and more. Demand for high-end travel doesn't just vanish permanently. It shifts, pauses, and eventually returns. But recovery isn't just about reopening doors. It's about rebuilding perception. And that takes longer because what needs to be repaired here isn't physical. It's psychological. It's about restoring confidence in the story that was being sold for decades. And that leads to the real question going forward. Not whether the Burj Arab will survive. It will, but whether the story it represents can fully return to what it once was. Because once a symbol changes meaning even slightly, it rarely goes back exactly the same. It evolves into something new. So now I want to hear from you. If you were planning a trip to Dubai or even dreaming about staying at a place like the Burj Arab, has this changed how you see it? Or do you think this is just a temporary moment that will fade like everything else? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more deep, real analysis like this, you already know what to do. Subscribe because we're just getting started.